my first business is private investigations. And a lot of times people think of Magnum. Somebody mentioned that recently. I don't, and
I wonder where that
Magnum
came
in
from.
Panama. The problem with Magnum is he does these fantastic things. He's always getting shot at and he never gets paid. That's not me. So,
Yeah, no, the Queen would
right.
not like that either.
No, she would not.
Brett Mikkelson, welcome to the show.
Good morning. It's good to be on your show.
Thank you. So you were a U.S. Army military intelligence officer, which brought you to Panama. Am I right in that?
Almost right. I wasn't an officer. I was active duty, but it did bring me to Panama. I was 18, joined the service, and just like anybody else who joins the service, they have no idea what they're really getting themselves into. I thought I was going to be speaking German, stationed in Gießen or someplace, and ended up being taught Arabic and then Spanish and then interrogations and then brought to Panama. So still worldly and fun.
We all have different stories about coming here. I joke with people I've met over the years, healthcare related. I have conversations with people about healthcare, and I say to them, look, I've met people who left Panama because of Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump. And I have a feeling in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, there'll be a whole bunch of people coming down here because of one of the other.
You still
leaving
said
the
left
U.S.
Panama.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
I've had enough. I moved. They actually followed through on the threat, right? That a lot of. So one of the things that I tell people is, it's probably not the best decision to make. You need to come down here, spend 6 months, and rent before buying. Snap decisions usually don't work out well. It's not the right reason for moving because you are making a long-term decision.
Right.
And an important part of that is healthcare. And we're kind of blessed being in the crossroads of humanity that we have people from all over the world that we interact with.
Right.
So, and you're a PI. A private investigator.
What? Where'd you hear that?
So you have kind of an additional perspective on things that a lot of people don't. And I'll get more into your background, but what's your experience been with healthcare overall in Panama? And then we'll talk about the U.S. because I suspect you probably have some VA thrown in there somewhere.
Yeah. This is 30 years of experience, so I can jump around a little bit. I think in general, my experience with the actual healthcare itself, meaning having to go to the hospital, has been phenomenal in so many ways. But it's all about preparation. You have to be prepared. I guess prepared with your insurance. Make sure you have the right insurance. You have to be prepared mentally because and you have to have a little bit of information about what's going to happen when you actually have to go to a hospital. And we tend to prefer Hospital Nacional, National Hospital, which is a private hospital in Panama. And there's a lot of reasons. They're very organized. I believe they're organized anyways. And we've had really great experiences with them. Majority of the people that we've worked with there have been very nice. So let's see, where do I start? My firstborn child is my daughter, Kimberly, and Kimberly was born a little over 28 years ago. So she was born when I was in the military at Gorgas Army Hospital. So that doesn't exist anymore, right? But of course, the advantages were, I don't know, just throw my wife into that room, her and a child come out. That's great, perfect. And what expenses? You know, it's just, there was no issue about what it's going to cost. It'll cost somebody. You know, it'll cost Bob in Missouri a little bit out of his paycheck. You know, to
20 cents, yeah.
Yeah. So
if that.
So getting into the civilian world was a shock, because now you have to worry about dental care, and you have to, because which is a little bit more often. I wear glasses, so there's so many different things that you have to think about and look at. But the bottom line is it's cheap. I mean, in comparison to other places, it's not something that you should have to worry about too much. When it comes to dental, you can go to just about any dentist here and just say, my tooth hurts. They maybe they'll do like an X-ray, maybe they'll do, you know, and they'll fix it and it's done, and then that's it, you know, and $100 at the counter and you're out of there, right? You know, yearly checkup or something. So it's not a big deal. The same thing with glasses. Now, I think the checkup, and I don't remember how it is in the US, but I think most places you have to pay just to get your eye exam done, or you use your insurance. Well, here, usually you go in and you get your eyes checked and you don't pay them anything, because they're hoping that you buy some glasses from them, you know? Now that's when it gets to be on the expensive round, because each one has their, usually the brand that they're going to push or whatever. And so you're not going to get a generic pair of glasses. You're going to get, well, let's see, what the heck did I get here? I think I got a generic pair. Oh, Perry Ellis. There you go.
The fact that you can read the Perry Ellis is good.
Yeah. So but you're not going to see through the frames, you know? So it's something that it's definitely, you have to be prepared to realize that when you go to an optometrist here, go to an eye doctor, you're going to, it's going to be cheap on one end and it's probably going to be expensive on the other end. So it's just the way it is.
It equals out. We tend to pay, in my experience, you pay cash for things that you would normally put on your insurance in the States,
right?
Which is a lot better. I mean, it's
right.
The thing that a lot of people don't get is Americans treat health insurance completely different than they think of their car or their home. And the analogy that I've heard and I use is, Americans use health insurance, and the equivalent is, in car insurance, you put your oil change on your insurance. You would never do that.
No.
Even if you could, you wouldn't do that.
No.
Or, you know, putting your lawn maintenance on your homeowner's insurance. What? No. Here, they treat it more like that. In other words, insurance is really what it should be, which is when it hits the fan.
Right.
Exactly. Though it's making inroads into Panama, what's going on, the U.S. model, because the U.S. has an enormous amount of influence globally when it comes to healthcare.
Right. And well, to interject there, you know, when the hits the fan, there's another side to that too, and it's the preparatory portion. If you're a young couple and you're thinking maybe you're going to create a family, okay, even in today's world, you can plan way ahead with private insurance, where private security, you'll need that too. Private insurance, and just, okay, well, you know, we're thinking about having kids maybe in the next 2, 3, 4 years. Great, get your insurance now, you're paying for it. And when it comes time to have that baby at a private hospital, you can go there, and it might cost you $500 depending on your I guess your prepaid, copay,
and
whatever. And that's exactly what happened to us with both of our kids. My wife was very smart. I mean, it's one of the reasons I married her. And I had insurance. And when we got married, I added her to my insurance, but her insurance was better. And she'd been paying this like since she was 18. She got a fantastic job. She was working with Nike. And while she was there, she learned tricks of the trade and how to be smarter about things. She got insurance. And so when we had our son, the comparison was night and day. Hers, it cost us $500 to have a kid at a private hospital with a private room. Yeah, I mean, it was just how is that even possible? If you go up into the States, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
and
because government here doesn't interject itself as much. There's a whole lot of issues. Governments want insurance companies dictating a lot of things. Both of them combined are a disaster. Right. That having been said, you mentioned your wife being smart. We're both members of those who have Panamanian Wives Club.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a great club.
It's a great club. Yeah, we're pretty smart. But there's a quote that I made note of, and you said, "Just remember, with great power comes a sarcastic wife." You want to unpack that a little?
Yeah, sure. Well, just get married to a Panamanian wife and you'll learn, right? Exactly what that is. No, so I write about her a lot in my articles, and I portray her as Queen Saida. And truth be told, I never called her Queen Saida prior to writing, but I think that first article came out because of how sarcastic she can be. And there are no rules to limit the amount of sarcasm in a day. There isn't a quota that she's trying to meet, but she seems to meet it, I guess. And
we're blessed, that's for sure. I mean, that's obvious. I'm going to put a link in the description for your blog, because you've been keeping a blog during COVID-19.
Correct.
And sending, I guess, maybe a blog. It was emails, and then it turned into a blog.
Right. And some people just look at the word blog and want to vomit. And to me, it's not even really a blog, because I'm not there every day going, oh, look, yeah, so I made myself this ham and cheese sandwich, and man, it was just fantastic. That's not the whole point. My thing is I'm making I'm compiling the news during a certain specific amount of time. The Monday morning newsletter is what I was calling it, is what I consider it, was just everything that happened over the weekend. And during the beginning of this pandemic, there was a lot of things going on over the weekend. I think now it's that a lot of things, there's still stuff going on, but it's not being reported as heavily. Like it was phenomenal. Like, can't believe 500 people got arrested over the weekend because they were stupid and they were, walking around during quarantine. And so we're not in quarantine anymore. So you still have stupid people, probably the same ones, doing things that they shouldn't be doing. But it's just much. So I dropped it to 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I realized that I'm writing so much, dedicating so much to this newsletter, that I should be doing it with something else. So I switched gears a little bit, lowered it to 1 day every Friday morning, and it's a compilation of the entire week. So you get everything that's gone on in the last week, which is quite a bit, and I'm spending time working on a book. So
a book.
That's
a good book. Yeah, because there's a lot of material there. When you first started sending it out, it was very welcome, because I appreciated your views, because A, your time here, and B, the fact that you're a trained investigator, you're able to smoke out the nonsense, clean that up.
The two letters.
Yeah. Full and... Anyway, rhymes with full, and okay. And there seems to be, there was a lot of misinformation coming out. Mm-hmm. How much of it was willful will probably be up for debate. But there's no one alive there's no doctor alive who's lived through a pandemic. There's, I think, very few people who lived through that time in the 1900s, during the Spanish flu.
Right.
And, we were kind of playing it by ear.
Right.
Even though there was some,
absolutely.
And we're still kind of, we're still playing the game a little bit, though they've improved. So
I think with the swine flu, or the Spanish flu, I'm sorry, they not only didn't really know what to do, they also purposefully downplayed it at the beginning, and that was disastrous. And so now we've got this, and there are people that are downplaying it, but I think maybe the world is over exaggerating it. And of course, this is in part a personal opinion. Yes, it's horrible. Yes, there are people dying, and you can't at any point say that, well, it's only 200,000 people. I mean, what's the big deal there, guy? Right? No, there's a big deal. And it's, so anything we can do to get the word out and be smart about this, even if we are overdoing it, and we're too many people wearing masks, you should be wearing masks. I don't know about that. It's like anything you can do to try to be more sanitary. It's only going to be a couple of years, just live through it, I guess.
Well, we'll survive, hopefully. Now, do you have the VA up north? Is that something that do you have that combination?
Yes. So it was about 4 years ago. I hadn't been using it, and I've had that benefit. I'm the type, I don't like. I think I'm more of a libertarian, and I don't really want government. And if you don't want government, you can't at the same time say, where's my stimulus check? Okay, so I'm that guy that I don't want the government to help me out. I don't want a handout, and it just, I don't see that as a good thing. Okay, personally, I'm trying to not abuse it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right. That being said, 5 years ago, I have a friend of mine who Chuck Kratzenberg is he's my bro crush, I guess, and he's old enough to be my dad, literally. We've got a lot of things in common. We love fishing, we love rum, and we talk about health all the time. And we got the same birth date, so it was just like, no, that's it, we're homies. So he takes proper advantage of the VA benefits, and he pushed me. He said, you should actually go get yourself just checked out, right? And so I'm from Wisconsin, and I had the opportunity to either go all the way up to Upper Michigan, Iron Mountain area, and do it up there, or I could do it in Rhinelander, which is just a couple hours from my hometown. I thought, well, I'll do it in Rhinelander. Boy, that was, I think, the smartest thing I could have done. I mean, the benefits are there, and it's about health. And you have everything that you do in life is based off of health. If you have no health, you have nothing else, period. Okay. And that's just, I mean, and I didn't say that for the show. That's just fact. So I went up there and I got a checkout. I got my checkup done, and we went through all the battle scars and everything that was in my medical history through the military, broken bones and whatever else that happened while I was there, and came up with a full physical and walked away. And I'm like, is there any cost at all at this? Can just, whatever it is, please let me know. I'm feeling, because I still feel like I'm taking advantage of something. It just doesn't feel right to me, but just the same, it's decent service for the very basic things. At least, luckily, I haven't had anything too major. But a back problem, and they guided me up north because of the time restraints that I had. I had a 2-week trip that I went to just get a checkup, and I wanted them to take a look at my back. I had a vehicle accident, and I got rear-ended, and my back was hurting. And they said, well, let's get you set up for x-rays and just a series of tests and whatnot. but they didn't have it there. And they said, well, you got to go up to Iron Mountain. And I was like, it's 4 hours away, and I'd really like to have something closer. I said, well, where are you at? I said, well, I'm in Antigo. Oh, well, we'll just set you up in Antigo then. The hospital there will make sure it gets done there. I'll push things through. And it's like, this is fantastic. Hopefully everybody could have that. Of course, only 1% of the population in the U.S. What's the word? Take the plunge, and otherwise,
sign their life away.
The U.S. could.
Yeah, we're 20 million plus veterans right now, and about 10 or 11 under care, and they're taking advantage of the things that they earned. And I make that distinction with the VA. That's something that, I appreciate what your sentiments are, but you earn that.
Yeah, but once again, I'm not saying that I haven't. Otherwise, and because if I didn't earn it, I'm not going to go for it. That's just the way it is. But in this case, it did take a little bit of a push. I grew up under humble conditions, and you got to do what you got to do to take that one step and get ahead and progress. And everything was done, in my case, anyways. It was me. That was it. And so that's why I got private insurance and life insurance, vehicle insurance, fire insurance, headphone insurance, whatever.
Little segue about how you feel about your care here in terms of keeping things sort of like, okay, it's handled. I mean, my sense is that if you get the pieces of the puzzle in place, which are pretty simple here, you don't have much of there's not as much of a suppressive influence that people have up north.
Right.
Because you have access. You have, fairly rapid access. I remember when I first arrived and I went to the doctor and gave me his business card, and it had his cell phone number on it, and he said, give me a call. If you have any questions, just give me a call.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. I have his cell phone number?
That was 2004.
Yeah.
So, it blows people away that, they have that kind of access. And that's a big deal because you don't have to go through this convoluted system of calling the office, making an appointment 2 weeks from now. But if I need care right now, what do I do? Oh, go to the urgent care or go to the ER. And that's a big problem because it's the most expensive part of the healthcare system is the ER, that and ICU, basically, for most things.
But if you have the right insurance, then your copay might be $200 to go to the ER, and then that was it. It just all depends. I think that would, out of all my experience, that's there's 2 points that I definitely want to make sure we get out on this. One of them is your healthcare and making sure that not only that you have healthcare, but you have the right healthcare. I'm going to tell you a horror story. Okay. So this is a Panama horror story. It has nothing to do with the healthcare itself, but it does have to do with not using the right insurance broker. Okay. So I had decent insurance. And it was working. As a matter of fact, I had shoulder surgery, and that was covered. It was an accident. I lifted something that I shouldn't have lifted and tore something that I didn't want to tear. And so that, a couple months of pain ended up putting me under the knife. And that was great. I didn't have the headaches of where am I going to get the money to pay for this? I'm going to have to take out of savings, or where am I going to? It was covered. There was a copay, paid it, and move ahead. So after that, I had a friend who was my broker at the time, and he said, "You know what? You need the Rolls Royce of insurance." And I was like, "Ooh, well, who doesn't want a Rolls Royce, So tell me about this. What do I got to do? Well, and I, boy, I don't want to mention the name of the insurance because it's not their fault either. Okay. I want to be clear on that, but I couldn't afford it. And I didn't think about not being able to afford it at the time, because you make 3 payments a year on this insurance and it's a lot of money, but you're covered. I think you could commit suicide and you're covered. It's so insanely complete. Okay. But I didn't need it. But business was great. So I wasn't worried about how much it was going to cost, and it covers everybody. You could even include your neighbors or whatever the super insurance was, the family pet. And so I started paying for this, and then all of a sudden business went bad. And I mean, just for no reason whatsoever, it was actually, I think it was actually in what is usually for us a good season for business, and business just went bad. And I had a bunch of other stuff come in. So I couldn't make a payment. When it was time to make that payment, the money wasn't there. So now I'm behind. And then business still kept up. I mean, still was going bad. And then eventually I said, I got to cancel this insurance. I said, dude, I can't pay for this. I'm appreciative and everything. Oh, we'll just make a minor payment. He says, if you just get $500 into that payment, which is a fraction of what it is. And trying to follow his advice, but of course it wasn't his advice. It was his pocket, right? Because he gets a percentage out of whatever it is that you pay into the insurance. He gets his portion. So you have to be careful on that. What ended up happening is I was uninsured for 3 years personally, because my wife is smarter than me. I think I mentioned that earlier. And she never got rid of her own health insurance. So she was never without health insurance. Okay. But me wanting to get the freaking Rolls Royce of insurance, and well, so he's not my broker anymore. Still my friend. We talked it out. And I have since gotten back into getting private insurance when it, but that was a master disaster. So if there's anything that anybody gets out of this, when you do get your insurance, make sure you get exactly what you need and nothing more. It's about as simple as that, which is hard to gauge sometimes.
It's a culture. It's important to remember where you're at. I mean, it's not just Panama. You move to Costa Rica, Colombia, or wherever, Thailand. Every system seems to be different, so you really do need to spend some time navigating that and figuring out where's Waldo.
Right.
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 So, how about culture? I mean, the culture. When you move to a new country, you have culture shock. I call it the primary color syndrome. You get off the plane, you see 16 colors, and they're brilliant, neon, right? And it takes a while before you start seeing 246 colors, and then you start seeing 36,000 colors, and pretty soon you're starting to see the shades of black and gray, and the depth of field becomes better. Your perspective becomes better. So you have an advantage in that you were fluent in Spanish.
Sort of. I mean, I wasn't really. I went through the Defense Language Institute, Monterey, California, and they taught me Spanish per se. I got 6 months of Spanish, and then I went. So I graduated beginning of January of that year, and then January, February, March, April, May. So it was about 5 months of not speaking any Spanish whatsoever that I just got done learning, okay, in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, through the interrogation school. And that's a lot of learning, actually. It's not just beating people up. I want to be clear, okay? As a matter of fact, it has nothing to do with beating people up, but it's I lost Spanish. I didn't want to learn Spanish anyways. I'll be clear on that too. I had no interest. I thought I was going to be learning German. and they sent me to Arabic, and then they sent me to Spanish, and that's not what I wanted. So I had an attitude. I mean, I was 18, so I had an attitude, go figure. And so I came down, and my vocabulary was pretty strong. My formulation of sentences was very weak. And I was making all the mistakes that everybody else makes when you're learning the language. And so when I came down, I did have an advantage. I'm not going to say I didn't. I did have an advantage, and I was able to communicate a little bit. I could get my cervezas, and I could get my, whatever that I needed. Huevos revueltos, por favor, but the culture shock to Panama is something that it's how do I explain it? Everybody is always on an extreme when it comes to emotions. They're either really happy or really upset, okay? Or really enthused or really curious or really, so it's a new extreme, and I come from, like I mentioned earlier, Antigo, Wisconsin, population 8,000, and I think that's counting the cows, so it's something where you're not used to all of this emotion. So you're constantly on red alert because, why are you so happy about eating fish? It just doesn't, I like fish too, but not that much, and then there's the other parts. Of course, this isn't necessarily health related, but traffic down here is chaotic. And you can't explain it unless you have to be immersed into it. You really do. You have to be driving down Via España, okay, in the left lane, and then you realize that you need to get into the right lane and nobody's letting you in, okay? And the people behind you are blowing the horns because you've slowed down to try to merge into traffic, and and then you just kind of pull over, start crying, rock back and forth, turn some jazz music on your station, and that's all you have to do. I mean, it's just
yeah. We've all been there at one point. Yeah. That is true. I think one of the things that, because you had at least some language skills, and I suppose you attained some semblance of fluency pretty quickly over a period of time.
Yeah.
But having
quickly over a period of time.
Yes, there's a bit of a fudge factor in there, right?
Yeah, right.
But having the ability to communicate with your physician, effectively, it may not be perfect, but there needs to be a certain amount of clarity, which a lot of people don't. They arrive and they don't quite, in any country, they're moved out, they're an expat, doesn't matter where they go. But they do need to find a physician that that's either bilingual and fluent, bilingual enough to make things crystal clear, or you bring your better half in, or someone you trust with your personal health information,
right,
and get that nailed down.
Right.
And then understand there are cultural influences at work too, because you may find they recommend an herbal remedy that's worked for 5,000 years.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And here
and
you're
going to be skeptical because you're coming from a place where they fill you so full of medication unnecessarily. And then you get down here and you say, well, I need formula ISEPL 25, which was developed for, no, you don't. What I want you to do is I want you to find a guanabano tree, and I want you to take the healthiest leaves off that tree. Now you're going to make a tea. And when you're done making that tea, you're going to drink it straight. Don't add sugar or milk or anything to it. Just drink it straight and your stomach problems will go away. And you're like, no, stop it, witch doctor. I'm not falling for that, and it's pretty impressive. It really is.
It is. We're both blessed and living in an incredible country.
Yeah.
And, even though you're sitting in traffic and you're blowing your horn and you're cussing out the person in front of you who's trying to merge into the right lane, you still have to remember what a great little place this is, as are other countries. Yeah. Right. I mean, I have a friend of mine who moved to Thailand, loves it, loves the healthcare. He's enjoying himself.
Yeah.
But do you have any advice to expats aside from healthcare? And we'll kind of weave in the BM Investigations, which is your company, which you do security work, you do. Also, I'll let you give a little thumbnail on what that is, and I'll put a link in the description. But what advice do you give to expats who may be coming here in the future, regardless of the purpose, the reason? What advice do you give them?
Okay, so, and I've been watching a lot of the chat groups, whether it's the Boquete group or the Coronado or the El Valle or all of these places that, are giving really decent advice, actually. And I think that's fantastic. So it's important to, if you have a group or you have a location. Okay, so when people think of Panama, very seldom do they think of Panama City anymore. Usually it's going to be Pedesy, or it's going to be, so find a chat group, get on the chat group, ignore the political hurrah that goes along with all of these chat groups, and ask the questions. Ask the questions, anything you can possibly think of, and you're really going to get a good amount of people that have the experience in that location and tell you what. Okay, so that's one. You have to do, of course, like anything else, your own research at the same time. Don't just believe that, okay? Because there may be some hidden agenda. Oh, I want you to come down here because then I'll be able to sell you my house because I want to get the hell out of here, right? So there's that. I think people fall in love with the marketing that is about Panama. So they'll say, wow, that beach area is awesome. I am totally going to go to, we think of some Santa Clara, or I'm going to go to whatever. And that is going to be my dream place. And then you realize that once you get there, the hospitals are kind of far away, and really they do have medical care out there, but if there's a real emergency, okay, you're usually going to have to go all the way to the city, right? Yeah. And so that's not to say that there isn't decent enough healthcare for your day-to-day things. So I go to Pedesy a lot, and every year, with the exception of this year, we bring down a group of guys to go fishing, and it's a very hopping fishing place. So one of the guys, a good friend of mine, he was going to be driving back with me, and he just got really sick. I don't remember all the symptoms that he had, but he was dizzy, sick to his stomach, the whole works. It could have been any number of things that he had. And the only place there was to go was to the public health system, the Social Security hospital in Pedesy. Now, of course, I'm thinking, oh, he's dead. That's it.
He's dead.
Dead.
He's dead, Jim.
So, but obviously I'm not a quitter. Okay. So took him to the hospital, and it was a unique experience in that I think we had to pay $3 just to have him seen. Okay. So it's $3. And then the doctor looked him over and he says, okay, hold on. And he didn't really speak a lot of English, but he was trying, which was really cool because it wasn't needed. I was there, right? So he writes down this list and he goes, okay, take this list. These are the medicines he's going to need. Go to the pharmacy. It's located on, near the park, and I'll call him and I'll tell him that you're on your way. I'm like, wow. Okay. So we go there, and they had everything except for like one thing. And that guy pointed me to the other pharmacy that had it. And I went there, and we went back, and when everything was said and done, he got his IV, they put him on a drip, they filled him full of medicines. And he was better. They got rid of the immediate pains and all the issues that he had, and they gave him his medication. The whole event cost less than $25. Okay. So, and it was the best attention. It really was. This guy, I mean, it was such a special attention because he was sincerely concerned. Now, keep in mind, the doctor wasn't there at the time that we got there. He was at his house. Okay. So they called him up. They said, "Hey, we got one," kind of like on the Ghostbusters thing. Boom, we got one. So he come over and for less than $25, including the medicine. So the hospital stay, the medicine, everything less than $25. And that was just unheard of. So take a look. Do not be afraid of the basic medicines for public health if you need it. And I think I mentioned traffic is horrible. I think there's a mindset. Okay, it's so easy to get road rage down here, and if you let it happen, it's going to be immediate. I think if you have to drive, if you have your own car and you have to drive, just start off. I'm going to take my time. Don't ever get yourself into a position where you have to rush, because you will be late. Period. And then you're going to be late and stressed and angry, and a few years later you're going to be in the hospital for it. So just
heart attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in your investigative work, I know you've set up like store security and amongst other things, and you do polygraph, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or is it a polygraph?
Yep.
So what are the things that you do, not just in Panama, but this is Central America and South America, right?
Right. Okay, so my first business is private investigations. And a lot of times people think of Magnum. Somebody mentioned that recently.
I wonder where that
Magnum
came from.
Panama. The problem with Magnum is he does these fantastic things. He's always getting shot at and he never gets paid. That's not me. So
yeah, no, the Queen would not like that either.
No, she would not. We had a discussion about that recently. As a matter of fact, I've got my whiteboard here with a list of people I need to call and get collections from. But the type of investigations that we do are usually going to be aligned with due diligence, which is background investigations. And we'll do this for large corporations. We do work for Pinkerton. We do work for Kroll. We do work for other of these large international organizations. Reuters contacts us for work. And we'll do this throughout Central and South America. And then there's the more personalized type of background where somebody's coming to Panama and they want to see, is this a really good investment idea? Should I be purchasing this house? And then we'll do the background on the promoters, the everybody that's involved in the sale of this property, find out who the true owners of the property are, because a lot of times, and we've seen this a couple of times, seldom is it the case where somebody comes to us and we do the due diligence and we find something bad, but always is the case where somebody will go arbitrarily just purchase something and then they find out that something was a body of the water in the Pacific, like it's not even solid land. Okay. And, oh, Brett, I need you to check this out for me. What should I do now? That's a lawyer. You don't need a private investigator anymore because you've already found out what's wrong.
You're in the problem prevention business.
Right.
Is exactly. A good way of saying it.
Exactly.
And you've, between missing persons too.
Right. So we've done child repatriation, which is not the same as a kidnapped kid. Usually it's something between parents, case where the mother's Panamanian, the father's American. They met in the States, they lived in the States, kids were born in the States, and mom doesn't like dad anymore. So she grabs a kid and they fly down to Panama, and then we're not going back. Right. That's happened more times than I'd like it to have happened. And so we've done those cases, and there's been other cases where both parents were U.S. and one of them decides she's going to go to, or he, it's not always a she. As a matter of fact, more than enough times it's been a he. They just take off to another country and they need somebody to repatriate. I mean, there's a legal aspect which goes under the Hague treaties, and then there's once you have the legal backing, then
Yeah.
you need to find them, so that's where we come in.
I think you wrote about a case of you finding it was the day after. That was on one of your posts, right? Am I right on that?
Right. It was that was a recent one, and it was a very, very minor part of the case, but it was something that I just wasn't expecting to ever happen in my. And one of the things that I wanted to point out is that to do these types of investigations, you have to get outside of your comfort zone sometimes. Okay, and you can't say, no, I'm not going to talk to that person because he looks ugly. I'm not going to walk into that building because holy cow, it looks dangerous. Sometimes that's why you're being hired, So you have to walk outside of your comfort zone. And in that particular case, there's a hairdresser that took fancy in me. And so I took advantage of that, and I would get my hair cut every 7 to 14 days or whatever, just to see if there's any information that he could give me. And his taking fancy of was that, oh, I know this guy, and I know where he lives, and I know his family, and I live really close by. And so, okay, you never know, it might come up with some sort of information. So I would go there and get a haircut, and nothing. So one time, I think I had a month pass, and he come up and he said, I've got some information, because he knew where I was at. The salon was in the same building as the hotel that I was in. So he went looking for me, knocked on my door and said, I know I've got some information. We have to meet though tonight at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever, super late, right? In this location. So I said, okay, fine. So I show up, and it's out of a book. And this might be in my book. I don't know yet, but the street lights were not working. It was the beginning of a dirt road intersection. And he goes, okay, we got to walk down that way. And I'm looking into nothingness. And I'm thinking, okay, well, let's see. What's the worst could happen? He could try to attack me. I could totally take this guy. If I get jumped by 3 more guys like him, I could take them too, because they're just so tiny, And of course, I'm ultra young at the time. So I follow along, and we're walking, and this dirt road turns into no road within about 5 blocks of walking. Well, which would be a standard measurement of a block. There's no houses. We're not passing houses. Okay. So, and he goes, it's just up ahead. It's that little place right over there. And I could see it only because there was a light flickering from a hole in the wall, which I first took as being a window or something. And it was down here, they do something in the communities out in the countryside. They call a junta de embarra. And basically junta means togetherness. Embarra means like plastering or dirtying. And what they do is they make mud huts for people who have nothing. Okay. And the community will get together and do this. And it's a whole process, and it's very cultural. And that's what they did for this guy. They made him a mud. I'm trying to not belittle the structure, but it's made out of mud and straw and a wooden structure that's made out of just the trees that were nearby. And so I get to the door, which is an opening. There's no door, it's just an opening, and there's somebody's old sheet was donated to him, and that was the door. And we go in, and the flickering was of some homemade candles, and by homemade I mean he probably had leftover animal fat and put it to use, and those were the candles. So I don't know how much I should tell about what happened on the inside, but it got freaky really quick.
They can always read for the full story. They can read that.
Exactly.
Blog. I mean the letter.
But if you want to talk about culture shock and poverty, there is nothing in the U.S. that I can even begin to think of, any location in the U.S. that I've ever been to. I've been poor. I mean, what I thought was poor. Okay. And poor it has a new meaning when you get here. And I'll help some of my friends into a culture shock, and I'll take them through certain communities that are actually close to the city. And I'll just do a drive-through and just the looks on what is this? What's going on? Where are we? You know,
What happened
why
in
are they living
Miami?
like that? Yeah, yeah. Why are they living like that? You know, and then we get into a good discussion as to why. But so that case ended up where, I mean, nothing short of a witch doctor told me that you're not going to get this kid this year because I have a spell placed on him, and you're just not going to be able to get him. And the only way you can do it is if you do I don't know how to even pronounce, I don't know how to translate it, but you have to do another spell, and you have to pray this spell every day. It's, you know, and this was a real thing going on. And finally I just said, nope, I'm out of here. Paid him $5 that he requested. And the interesting thing though is we did not get hands on that kid until literally the 1st of January. So
he was right.
Who knows?
Culture and
and
it is amazing when you move to a foreign country and you it's different from traveling. Far different from traveling, because you see what the guidebooks want you to see, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to let that be your only view and your only perception of that country. You know, people coming to Panama, they see Miami in the skyline.
Yeah.
And they see the 16 colors. But boy, you're right. You can take them in some directions and it's only 20 minutes and
Yeah, absolutely.
Brett Mikkelson, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, for Winning Healthcare Food Fights, I'm Hunter Schultz. Stay healthy, wash your hands a lot, and there you are.